Space, the final frontier. These are the podcasts of the Starfleet Night Shift, our continuing mission to discuss strange new worlds, TM, to review Star Trek in all its iterations, to boldly talk about Trek we've all seen before.
Welcome to the Night Shift, guys! So glad you're here. That's the intro. Welcome to the Maiden Voyage of the USS Night Shift. Very exciting, completely brand new, guys. This is entirely new. We are moving to a new format, a podcast which we've never done before, over to YouTube, which is super exciting. An entirely new crew, entirely new mission, voyages into strange new worlds, TM.
TM.
Really
I love
good.
it, dude.
I heard you chuckle when I said TM.
All right, let's
That was
kick
perfect.
this thing
That was
off.
perfect.
I'm gonna, let's see, I'll turn down what the stream here is. Oh no. Why did that change?
What change? What's going on?
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's working. Technical difficulties, guys. Welcome to the Night Shift. We're going to do this again. So glad you guys are here. Obviously, the maiden voyage of the USS Night Shift. Very excited to see you guys. This is going to be a brand new format, an entirely new experience, a 5-year mission, so to speak, continuing mission. I don't know, forever and ever. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah, let's go with continuing mission.
Continuing mission. To explore all the new Trek that has come in the last couple of years. It's been an incredible time. There's so much to talk about these days. I think that's the craziest part of this whole thing. For those of us who have been Trek fans since we were kids and lived through the initial golden era of Star Trek, it is now a brand new era of more Trek than we've ever seen before. There's more to talk about, more new things than I have ever experienced in any fandom ever. As we know right now at this moment, there are 5 different Star Trek series currently being made and new things to talk about every single day. So I'm incredibly excited to be here with you guys talking about all that new stuff. I hope you'll be a part of us as we go through this journey. It's going to be a new experience for all of us. So I just want to introduce our cast and crew. Welcome to everybody. This is Chief Jennifer in the upper left-hand corner, my beautiful wife, co-host, amazing supporter of all things Star Trek. Bottom left, Commander Justin, the legend. Also, ask him about his Tiny Tots Star Trek cosplay. Absolutely the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And of course, Science Officer Azure in the bottom right-hand corner, legend. He's got a tricorder in his hand. He's ready to scan. He's ready to scan you. So, welcome everyone. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, so excited to be here.
Great. Yeah, it's great, dude. Can't believe it. This is actually where we're starting this whole this podcast. It's actually going, taking off.
Real. Yeah,
it's real.
For those of you who don't know, this has been like in the pipeline for so long. There's been so many talks about this, planning updates about this, making the Discord, getting all set up, and in between all those things happening, there's just been so much Star Trek to discuss. Like, there's so much hype built up around this. I'm so excited to do this. We have Star Trek Day, which just happened. September 8th, 1966 was the first ever episode of Star Trek hitting the air. No one had any idea what that was going to be. It started incredibly humble. I'll just give a tiny little anecdote in case you didn't know. The transporters in Star Trek, the original series, were made out of necessity. Building shuttlecrafts and sending them to and from alien planets cost too much money. That cardboard that they used in the Galileo 7 or whatever, that was too much money. So they came up with the beam effect. So everything starts small, starts humble, and 56 years later, guys, Star Trek is still stronger now than ever before. Just like our podcast, guys. It starts today. 56 years from now, we'll all be very old. We'll see.
I misinterpreted that. I thought you were saying our podcast is stronger now than it ever has been, which is technically true.
So let's just introduce ourselves. We're brand new to a lot of people that are going to be watching this. Obviously, we're live streaming this. Your chat is going to be shown on the stream down in the center below, but a lot of this is going to be passed around in a video later. So let's introduce ourselves to the greater YouTube audience. So do you want to go first, Azure?
Sure.
How'd you get into Star Trek? Who are you? What do you like? What don't you like? Why is your beard so awesome?
Man, those are some tough questions.
I know.
So yeah, I go by Azure. I'm our science officer, but mostly because I like blue. I got into Trek as a kid. Didn't really know what I was watching when I first started getting into it. I mostly got into it because I really enjoyed. We would have like family dinner when I was real young. I stayed with my grandparents for a while, and it would be my grandma, my grandpa, my dad, usually my aunt, and myself. We'd have dinner. I was always the last one to finish because I'm a slow eater and I talk a lot. And after we would finish, we would go out and we would watch an episode of Star Trek Next Generation that was on, like, airing that day. I think it was the day, whatever day it was that, like, they would release each week. We'd go out and watch that, and I just absolutely fell in love with the show over time, partially because of the experience with my family, which I was just really into as a kid. But obviously it grew on me. I consider myself a huge Star Trek fan. I have seen almost everything, except, as my co-hosts here know, I have somewhat embarrassingly never watched a full episode of the original series. And like Merrick, I actually haven't watched the animated series. Listen, I actually had plans to try to get through some of the episodes before today for our first podcast, but I didn't make it. Someday I will. I would say I've got. It's tough to pick a favorite series, but if I had to, I would say Voyager's got to be up there. It was the first series that I watched from start to end, like as it was coming out. I was old enough then that I could, like, I was still living at home with my parents. I was still a kid, but I had like my own TV, and I would just go kind of like huddle away and watch this show and just get super into it.
Nice.
As far as what I dislike, I don't know. There's not a lot. Like I have pet peeves and like nitpicks and stuff little with like Trek at different points.
Yeah,
but
same.
I don't think there's anything that I would like
Not
say
enough
that
of it.
want to list right now as my dislike. It'll come out as we go through. You'll see.
Favorite ship, favorite captain, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
dude.
give the
Start off with
favorite
serious
captain-
questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the favorite captain that I gave in my introduction in our Discord because I have such a hard time picking. I'm going to go with the emergency command hologram is one of my favorite captains because Robert Picardo is one of my favorite actors that's been on Star Trek. I love
same, dude.
everything about him. And
Yes.
when the episode where they actually like first introduced the idea of the emergency command hologram is one of my favorite like kind of funny-ish awkward episodes of Voyager
so
that
good.
I love.
The daydream episode, right?
It's when he starts trying to daydream and
Yes.
And favorite ship, also very tough. I claimed Voyager when we were playing Star Trek Online earlier this week. I don't want to stick with only Voyager as the thing I talk about, though.
I was going to say Voyager, Voyager, and Voyager.
I'm gonna actually go with my true favorite aesthetic ship, which is the Defiant. I love it. It's a tough little ship.
It's a tough little ship.
Little.
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 I just want to say that the emergency command hologram as your favorite captain has got to be one of the most unique and amazing answers I've ever heard in the 10,000 times I've asked this question. I'm imagining right now where his uniform turns red and the little pips come on and go
appear.
That looks so cool and dramatic. It's the best. Yeah. What is the name of the species that's like observing him? I forgot the name of the species.
So I don't know that they ever got a name because they appear in a couple later episodes and they talk about the hierarchy as like the group that they report to like, get approval. Yes. But I don't know that I'm not 100% sure that they get a name other than that or if they are just the hierarchy.
It's probably an STO. Somebody might say it in chat. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's probably there.
I was going to say if they have a name, I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Azure, you rock. Excellent answers. ECH is definitely the most unique thing I've ever heard. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, focus. Go.
Focus? What do you mean?
Justin, Commander Justin.
Oh my goodness,
Jocus.
already? No, just Commander Jocus.
Joe Custon.
No,
you were trying to go in alphabetical order right there, Mary.
Yeah. Well, hi everyone. My name is Justin. You can always go by One Focus, which is my Twitch alias as well. I do stream on Twitch. But yeah, for me, I am a big Star Trek fan. I grew up with it in the 90s, so I'm doxing my age right now. So I am in my 30s, and technically for me, I basically watched it with my dad the whole entire time. He got me into the movies, got me into just watching all of Star Trek, and honestly, as my life progressed, through my career, through school and everything, it's crazy how many, Trekkies you run along the way. And they teach you a little bit of something. So for me, Star Trek is very important for me because a lot of the things I've taken away were from Star Trek. So it's really nice to really go back and watch these episodes and, as someone that's like, totally into sci-fi, but then watching what you could take away from Star Trek, that is what I really feel there's a lot more appreciation towards it. But in regards to, favorites, The Next Generation is definitely my thing.
Okay,
that's where I grew up with. Picard is my dad, my online
TV space dad, bro. TV space dad. Same.
He's just he does it with such conviction, such strength and power, and so much knowledge and inspiration that you can just take away so many things from it, and just be like, hey, I can apply this to whatever it is that I'm doing. Favorite ship of all time, I'd probably say, is the Enterprise E. Sovereign class. That's just my favorite one. First Contact, that's when you see it fly through, and it helps. Like it just takes command of the fleet, and you just see it fly across.
Best
and I think and like as a kid seeing that in theaters, I was just blown away by it because it's like, whoa, this looks so cool.
I'm taking command of the fleet.
I'm taking command of the fleet.
So awesome, man.
Yeah, man. And she's just like, okay, fire this on my coordinates. He's like, well, sir, this isn't a vital point.
Yeah.
I go, just trust me, Data. Just do it. Yeah. Oh man, that was just the greatest thing I've ever seen. And yeah, pretty much for me, Star Trek. Just for the movies itself, everything that I've taken away, with Star Trek, it's just I hold it really near and dear to me. But yeah.
Yeah, man. Same. Okay, that was Captain, Ship, Sovereign, Picard, and TNG. Okay, that's consistent, bro. That's good. So we got a Voyager representative, and then we got a TNG representative. Let's see what the next one is. Jennifer. Man, you guys are gonna kill me. Chief Jennifer.
Yes.
What about you?
Okay, so I would say I started my Star Trek journey watching reruns of the original series and the original series on DVDs and things like that. It's just something that I shared with my parents and my dad, and he would make references. He still makes references to the original series all the time. So I came at it as a child, just enjoying the fun and the colors and the humor of the original series and of the movies. And then I didn't actually watch any other Star Trek, until I met Marek. Until I met Marek. I had seen a few Next Gen episodes also, like when I was a kid, but I didn't actually start watching the rest of Star Trek until I got married, and then we ended up watching all of it in order. So, fun story, I was so invested in Marek watching the original series, which he hadn't seen, that I said, okay, if you will watch these 3 seasons, I will watch everything else with you.
I got the better end of that deal.
Yeah, you did.
So how 25, 27 seasons later. But yeah, we did it in order. So I think I actually have a pretty unique perspective, probably because I got to see the Next Generation in order, Deep Space Nine in order, Voyager in order, and Enterprise in order, and now the new series that have come out as well. So except for the original series, I've seen it chronologically, and I think from Deep Space Nine onward, that definitely helps to
Makes the difference,
appreciate
right?
it.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, favorite ship?
The 1701 original series.
Don't you mean no bloody A,
Yes.
B, C, or D?
Yeah.
I love it. It's fantastic. But
We haven't seen the E.
but
I didn't listen to you.
I know the E. No, not the E. But my favorite captain has changed over time, but I would say it has changed multiple times. I would say, though, it is at this point it's Captain Janeway, absolutely. But like Asher said, I think the Doctor from Voyager might be my favorite character in the entire series.
Oh, let's go!
Like
Robert
in all
Picardo
the
is
series,
a freaking legend, man.
He's
He's such a legend.
So yeah, that is my what else are we?
Wait, so
what
it's
favorites?
the series. Is TOS your actual favorite series after everything you've seen, after everything we've done?
Oh God, I don't know if I can choose.
Hard.
I don't know if I can choose a favorite series. My favorite series, for the most part, is the series I'm watching at the moment.
Oh,
and I know that might seem like a cop-out, but that is something I've experienced. So as I am in a series watching it, that is my favorite. I'm like 110% into it. But then when I get to the next one, it captures me in just the same way.
I can respect that because, again, my co-hosts know this, but I've probably rewatched all the series, again, except TOS. Sorry, Junie. Sorry, Jennifer. Except TOS. I've probably rewatched them all like 4 or 5 times, and I actually just yesterday finished rewatching Enterprise, and before that I had just watched Voyager, and before that I had just watched DS9, before that I just watched TNG.
Does that mean your favorite is Enterprise right now?
No.
Has it been a long road, Azure, for you, getting from there to here?
No, it was a long road listening to that reference again.
But they haven't heard it.
That's fine. No, it's
been a long road.
I'm sticking with Voyager as my favorite, but I can respect the opinion that like whatever show you're watching currently could easily be the favorite at the moment.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
and I would say,
fall in love with it again.
Exactly, yeah.
So, my name is Captain Merrick. I have been into Star Trek my entire life, and some of my story for this actually just came out with Jennifer here. I grew up in a house where I think not everybody agreed on everything that they wanted to watch. So of all the things that people were into, I think the one thing that we could all agree on is watching Star Trek. Next Generation was awesome. That was the show I grew up on. Like Focus or like Justin, that was my TV space dad. Like, he was such an awesome representative of, like, you know, awesome early 1990s modern masculinity on television, right? He was such a big deal. He was so awesome. He did so many great things. I think for me, it was really important as sort of like a thing that brought my family together when I was young. And I genuinely feel this. You hear us talk about this a lot. I honestly feel like Star Trek makes better people. It brings with it an intrinsic morality, I think, that is really contagious, makes you think, opens your mind to different things. There's episodes that happen in TNG that opened my little tiny child mind in a way that stayed with me forever. Like, I still think about it. If there's like a moral conundrum in my life, I'll flash back and be like, the line must be drawn here. You know, it's such like an important part of who you become. I think if you really let Star Trek impact you and you grow up with it, it's just kind of that thing. And like Junie, I think I learned later that watching certain Star Trek in chronological order makes such a big difference. I loved TNG. Voyager was very exciting, but there was a huge part of my life that I would walk around talking about how DS9 was awful. A terrible show. They didn't go anywhere. They were on the space station. None of the care, like, there was so much that wasn't Federation, right? It was just kind of like this big amalgamation of alien, you know, drama. It didn't make sense to me. It wasn't until years later. And the reason why I'm going into this is that my favorite series is Deep Space Nine. DS9, I'm a Niner. I got the hat somewhere. There we go. There we go. I'm literally a Niner for life, dude. And so I grew up literally, you know, spouting how much the show was not able to stand up to all the other ones. And then it wasn't until years later when it went on Netflix and I was sort of having like a particularly rough time in my life. I had sort of broken up with an ex and went back to school, stopped hanging out with all my friends, and I just sort of delved into Star Trek. In fact, what I initially thought was I would love to go through Voyager from beginning to end. I'm just going to start from the beginning and start in the beginning of Star Trek and go forward. Oh, God, I'm going to have to get through DS9. That's awful. Like, I guess I will dredge through this thing that I don't want. And then it very clearly, or very, very, like, abruptly made me realize that I never watched things like Azure said, like watched it every week on the day that the new episode came out. That just wasn't the way that a lot of people watched TV in the 90s. So I was just watching random reruns on UPN or whatever it was that they were putting it on, right? So when you're actually getting episodes of a completely serialized, like, progressive story show in random order, they're giving you things, usually the one-off episodes. You know what I mean? They weren't like the big plot development episodes because that really didn't make sense. So they were throwing random stuff to you and I had no clue what that show was about. And then when I sat down to dredge through it to get to Voyager, I fell in love with that show in a way that I didn't think was possible. It changed me forever. Deep Space Nine is an experience, dude, going from the beginning to the end of that show. So I would say at that time, I really became the biggest Trekkie of anyone that I knew. I fell in love with it. It really helped me through that hard time. DS9 became my favorite. As far as favorite captains, that one's tough because it's changing right now. And I'm gonna give you the quick reason why. Captain Picard, in my opinion, in his heyday, okay, measure of a man, Captain Picard is the single best captain that has ever existed. But two different things are happening, right? For me, like, the ultimate pinnacle of leadership and poise and intellectuality and all sorts of amazing things that you want in a captain are really embodied by Picard. But right now, there's a split change that's happening. One is that there is a brand new amazing captain that is rocking the boat everywhere. Obviously, Anson Mount is one of the greatest, most amazing, dare I say, handsomest men on the planet that have ever helmed an Enterprise, let alone any ship. And his captain style is phenomenal. This is Strange New Worlds, by the way, the show that is changing everything. We'll get into that more later. And while he is getting better and better, we're seeing more and more of him. He is rising in my esteem of favorite captain ever. But at the same time, Picard is changing. I'll just say changing the role, the character that is Captain Jean-Luc Picard. He has been in my opinion, through this show, changed quite a bit. And so he's being changed in one way, and Pike is being raised in this astronomical way on this other side. And because of that, I feel like I'm in this weird limbo. It's somewhere between like Picard and Pike. So I'm gonna leave it there. I could debate this all night. It's very complicated and very awesome. I love where it's going. But my favorite ship is probably this one. There we go. This is the USS Relativity. I happen to have it. This is a gift from my amazing wife. She's incredible. This is actually a ship that is technically Starfleet canon. This is Starfleet, but from the future in one of the episodes of Voyager. Probably the coolest design ship I've ever seen. It's not really one of the classics. If you wanted me to pick like one of the lead TV show ships, I gotta go with the Defiant, bro. I'll stick with DS9. I'll be the DS9 representative, okay? So DS9, TNG, Voyager, and TOS. We literally have the spread going on right now. No, NG, it is not a Borg cube. That is not my favorite ship. Although, I do really, really want a giant, expensive
Borg cube
computer
PC.
case that's a Borg cube that exists. But I digress.
Yeah.
All right, that's me.
I mean, I will say I totally get the pull between Picard and Pike because I think I messaged you about this when I was first watching like episode 1 or 2 of Strange New Worlds. I think I sent you a PM where I was all excited. I was like, he can monologue like Picard.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
Which is such an important thing, man. I mean, what are the greatest moments, right? Like, if you go through and you want a highlight reel of TNG, is it really the combat? Do you really want people double fist punching or palm slamming or space phasers? Like, the truth is, and this is what I think makes Star Trek so unbelievable, right? So amazing, is that it captures something in you that it's not like Star Wars. It's not the lightsaber battle that's making you swoon. It's those moments of poignant monologuing, right? That morality when it hits you. I can tell you that in all of Star Trek, I've had that single tear, like super affected emotionally by Star Trek a billion times. And you know how many of those were because I was sad? 0. You know how many of those were because I was emotionally moved in an amazing, inspirational way by some monologue or another? That's like all of them. Dude, it's so incredible. And you're right. I think in order for Pike to really raise to that level, the boy's got a monologue. And he does. And he's getting good at it, man.
He does
It's
it really
amazing.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, you already mentioned the scene that I think of as like setting the bar for monologues in Star Trek, which is The Measure of a Man.
Measure of a
and
Man.
Picard's speech.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like the lasers.
Our mission is to seek out new life. Well, there it sits.
Yeah. Exactly.
Waiting.
Yeah, that was really good.
And that was like season 1. Wasn't that season 1? Wasn't he just kicking it off with that? Or was it season 2?
Was
I
it
think
season
might be
2?
2.
It's got to be
Might have
season
been
2 because
two.
Guinan's in there.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Oh, and she makes the allusion, not illusion, but the allusion to slavery, right? To slavery, which was profound. That's what I'm talking about, man. The show just kind of that. You don't think that sticks with you when you see that when you're a little kid? You don't think that like forms a part of you, dude? It's so incredible.
I mean, I think seeing it at a young age, it's something that, in a perspective point of view, you're gonna have to look at and probably rewatch it and then truly understand it. It was just, for me, it was more beneficial that I had my dad really being like sitting alongside me and using those as tools that he could teach me as to what it really truly meant, right? Because like for me as a kid watching TNG, everything was so fascinating, but at the same time, I was there for the fire, the phasers, and the red alerts, and the action too, because it was so entertaining to see as a kid. You know what I mean? But as you grow older, when you go back and rewatch it, because you have like all these reruns that you go back and you see. I feel like sometimes it comes in a at a time of your life where you truly needed to see it, or you truly need to watch it and just learn from that. So that's where I take a lot of appreciation for TNG itself, even DS9 and like all those other ones, right? Because I gotta admit, like even for DS9, I didn't really understand it at all. As
It's heavy, man.
as someone who was younger, but when you go back and rewatch it, it does become a favorite. It absolutely becomes a favorite because then you start to get into everything that is reflective upon what we were dealing with at that time. in life. So it's so intriguing to really go back and look at that and say, oh wow, these are some things that we need to look at as topics. And then I think we even need it now. Like Star Trek more than ever is
More than
in
ever,
a new
absolutely.
golden age, man. I think we're in a new golden age where you're even seeing it in Strange New Worlds where they're tackling on topics, in a variety of different scenarios that you see for the Trek of the Week, and it's totally reflective of what we're dealing with today in life, right? So that's where Trek, I feel like I want more of it because I feel like it's such a beautiful thing to look at as a lesson for each and every one of us to watch it, right? So
yeah, it's almost Star Trek's duty, right? Like it's almost
Right.
it's General Order 1. Like the entire it's like if you're going to make a new Star Trek, you have a responsibility, don't you? Don't you feel like you carry this kind of weight to inspire and to affect, to impact that generation in a way to make it relatable to the problems of the day and open people's minds in a way that brings positivity and inclusion for every generation. That's actually one of the coolest things about watching Star Trek evolve, because in doing so, you're watching a reflection of society evolve, right? Because Star Trek is meant to reflect for that society, for that generation in a way that makes them really think and break down barriers. It is like Stranger Worlds is great, right? Because it's going back to sort of Planet of the Week, like you had said, but it makes you think, it changes your perspective, and it normalizes things, right? It's just some of the best impact I think that Star Trek makes is just normalizing it, right? Like we're just going to put a black woman in a position of command and authority on the bridge of the Enterprise. And that's freaking normal. One of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek ever is when Uhura is like, saving the day. She literally, this is in the TOS episode, she's underneath the console trying to fix something mechanical, electronic, like hardcore engineering stuff. And Spock is behind her and says something to the effect of like, I can think of no one whose hands I would entrust this more to than you, Lieutenant, or something. Like, it's just, it seems so casual for today, but at the time that was just staggering to normalize that. So I mean that's why what other fandom, dude? What other fandom can you get so many people coming forth and being like, Star Trek changed my life. Star Trek
Literally.
directed the course of my whole career or whatever. Like there's more of that in Trek, I think, than anything else, right? It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, take a look at a lot of people's careers too, and you ask them too. I mean, even Patrick Stewart was getting all those letters about how Star Trek changed their lives, right? Or they didn't get into whatever it is what they were doing, whether that be engineering or anything in sciences, because of Star Trek. Honestly, like even taking a look at my dad, he's a computer engineer, and a lot of that inspiration came from Star Trek, from all that. And I look at my life now, and I said, when I was younger, I didn't really want to be like my dad. I wanted to do something different. But it's funny how it comes in full circle, where I take that inspiration and I do what I do now through the inspiration of Star Trek, man. Like through all of that, and it's so great to see not just even the show evolve itself, but even technology in our time, man. All that influence from Star Trek. You see tricorders,
the tricorders,
the pads, everything, dude.
Everything, man.
We can see that.
Flip phones, bro. I mean, it was such a thing,
Yeah, man, 100%. Like flip phones were like the TOS communicators, man.
Yeah,
like, you flip them up and like I've had a flip phone myself, and there's not a moment in time where I've did the sound effect and flipped up the phone and like,
for sure.
Oh yeah, baby, like this feels like Star Trek,
Well, and they even made them originally look like the Star Trek ones. I remember when I was a kid, the first flip phone or the first cell phone I think we got as a family was one of those like silver bulky
Nokias or
a Sprint,
the clamshell
the clamshell Sprint phones that were like a block, and they even had something that looked a little bit like a chevron on them, and it was just never ending hilarity of like pretending that it was a Star Trek communicator.
Bro, you know what I want right now is the Galaxy Z. I want the Galaxy Z, fold phone, just so I can put like an L-Cars case on that thing and replace all of the sound effects with Star Trek tech.
I mean, dude, I had a Motorola Razr. That's what I was playing around with the entire time.
Yes.
Changing your ringtones to the Star Trek to match the Star Trek notifications and stuff.
Yes, dude.
Oh man, Dude, those were great times.
I just
There
threw
it is.
in our chat. I threw up. I googled. I was like Galaxy
Oh
Z Star
my.
Trek cover. It
Yes,
looks so
dude.
cool.
That's what I need. I need a Galaxy Z. Judy,
Yeah. No.
I need a new phone.
No, but I totally remember as a kid.
Here's my phone.
When I got my first flip phone, probably in high school or whatever. I would do the same thing. You'd run around. You'd pretend like it was your communicator. I actually next episode I'll bring it. I think I still have my Razr flip phone somewhere in a bag. I don't know why. I'm gonna bring it so I can be scanning while we're talking.
Right? There you go. Oh,
Dude,
man.
now I want one.
Right?
Next time we get an upgrade, I'm getting one. I just got, so Lower Decks Season 3 just came out. I'm sure all of you guys know. It's literally been the best thing ever. But StarTrek.com actually had like a sale that they were doing to celebrate Lower Decks Season 3. And they actually, I couldn't, because my phone's a little old. I have an S10 Plus. And they actually had like a Lower Decks, I don't know what you call this. It's like the texture of a ship. You know, like the ship, the whole texture.
Like with like
basically.
the whole plating and stuff.
Yeah, can you make this out? Is that possible to see? And I got a Star Trek pop socket, of course. This was on sale on StarTrek.com. We are not sponsored. Oh, but boy, could we be? That would just be that would be great. Speaking of, I think that's some Star Trek merch you're wearing there, Focus. Is that a
Absolutely. Strange New Worlds. Yeah.
Strange New Worlds?
Yeah, man. I really love all the Star Trek, stuff. But I love just subtleties, man. Like just subtle Star Trek stuff, and nothing too loud. I like all the sleek looking stuff, like the sleek designs, like even in Into Darkness.
What about this?
Oh man, show me that. What do you got? What do you got there?
This is the Cerritos, the California class.
Oh
the string delay, you'll see it. It's coming.
I got you. Yeah. I mean, nothing too loud, you know what I mean? But I love symbols and stuff like that. Just like kind of just a mild pop, because if you're a real one, you know.
Yeah, right. Ship skin.
Ship skin, yeah, man. Oh gosh.
So, did you guys tune in to Star Trek Day? That's the next big thing, right? Like as I said at the beginning of the podcast, there are currently 5 actively running Star Trek series at this very moment. That's never happened in the history of ever. We have Star Trek Discovery, which is the first one after 20 years or something like that. Star Trek P.A.D., which came next. That's still running. Final season coming soon. We actually got some trailer of that, which is amazing. We'll get into that pretty soon. And then we have Lower Decks, the animated series that I did not have the highest hopes for and has turned out to be maybe my favorite Star Trek ever. So amazing. And then, of course, Strange New Worlds and Prodigy, which I think a lot of people haven't seen or given a chance to. I want to shout out our friend Diamond Dax in the Diamond Rosette, in the chat there. Diamond is the one who did all of our Lower Decks themed art here on stream. You can see all of our little avatars there. It's our amazing artist friend, Diamond. She brought it up earlier that she and her daughter, and I think her husband, all started watching Prodigy this week. And they're in episode 3 and really enjoying it. I think it's maybe one of the greatest examples of a show that can be watched with any age, right? Like you can have little kids watch that. And then also a larger kid named Captain Merrick who's sitting there like this going squeak watching Janeway on there. So
they're already like they set it up as a kids show, but they're already bringing in Janeway and they're bringing in other characters that we know and love from Voyager. So it's clearly able to be watched by anyone of all ages.
Yeah. I went into Merrick. You had recommended Prodigy to me. I had known about it, but had no intention of watching it. And I will admit, even after your recommendation, I went into it kind of with pretty low expectations. Like I was like, it'll be fine. Yeah. I'll watch it. I'll, make it through, blah, blah, blah. It's definitely never going to be my absolute favorite Trek, but that's because, but I bet if I had a young kid who I wanted to get into Star Trek, I would absolutely be watching that anytime they made a new one with them.
Yeah.
Making a whole new generation of Trekkies.
Well, and it's not a bad show. It is obviously like Jennifer said, it's made for kids, but it's very watchable by adults, even if you don't have kids to watch it with. And yeah, when Janeway showed up, or wait, have we decided? Are spoilers just kind of expected?
You can spoil as much as you want on this. Everyone, fair warning. This is a spoiler alert, because obviously it's the podcast. We have to talk about all this as if you all know the Star Trek we're talking about.
Yeah, but like when Chakotay showed up in one of the scenes.
Did you lose your mind, dude? Did you lose your mind?
I absolutely did, because that was not at all what I was expecting.
No, neither
not at
was.
all.
Yeah, dude.
Not at all.
Jenny and I just lost our collective brains on that. We turned to each other because it was the same thing, dude. Like, I started watching that by myself, not having much high hopes. In fact, I'll break this down for you. Like I said, you heard at the beginning of the podcast how into Star Trek I am, how protective I actually am of the franchise. Like, for me, I'll tell you guys right now, I'm the dude that when like a plot hole pops up and somebody goes, look at that, I found this thing. I'm like, no, because it could be possible if, and like, I'm that guy. Okay. I love Star Trek. I want it to be real, and darn it, I'm going to help. I'm going to help it be real. And I will try to come up with some ways to do that. I'm just very protective of this franchise that has changed my life in so many amazing ways. So when new Trek started to come out, Discovery and Picard, I was so hyped, and it ended up being very different. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's very, very different. And I think we can all at least agree that that's probably true. And when I went to Prodigy, I wasn't feeling as good about like hopeful Trek, right? So I think that Discovery and Picard are very good in the whole conglomeration that is Star Trek. If you look at them in a vacuum as Star Trek, it's a little harder because I want my Trek to be optimistic. I want it to be positive. We're supposed to look at modern day prejudice, racism, bigotry, like all these things. We're supposed to look at that through a lens from the future from which we have solved those problems. To me, that is like what separates Star Trek from every other bit of sci-fi that's out there. And they always found amazing ways to do that. So when I was looking at it, Picard and Discovery are not quite as hopeful, right? They're a little bit heavier, a little bit darker. Now, I'm not to say that that's bad. There's definitely a lot of good truths, a lot of good contributions to the world of Star Trek through both of them. I would love to get into the details of those. But when I was looking at them after 20 years of no Trek, I was feeling a little down about that optimistic future that was going forward. And I wasn't feeling really good about it. So I was more hesitant with Lower Decks and Prodigy because I felt like the tent pole wasn't there. The core that was holding up that optimism wasn't there. Like, I'm perfectly fine with things around that periphery, but I need that to be there too. Something needs to hold that up for modern Trek. And I wasn't feeling like that was really being represented until Strange New Worlds, which I really feel like is bringing back a lot of that old school optimism. Azure, you were talking about the monologues, dude. The one where they do first contact, right? Was that episode 1? That podcast. The monologue when he drops down in the middle of their like political deliberations and drops some knowledge. That I was like, oh my God, it's back. Trek is back, dude. And this is the feeling that I've been missing. And then I went and watched all the other shows again with sort of renewed optimism about the franchise, about that feel good feeling that it brings. And one of the biggest surprises for me was Prodigy. Prodigy is young, but oh my God, is that inspirational, life-changing, sort of like, this is what the Federation... I mean, did you not get chills when holographic Janeway, it was explaining the Federation to the kids? I mean, there was such pride in her voice that I ended up standing up and salute. I mean, I didn't really, but I mean, I felt like it.
You totally
I just
did,
wanted
dude.
to be like,
Yeah, he's just trying to cover it up now.
He totally did, dude.
It changed everything. I was like, dude, this is a new generation being introduced to what Star Trek is, and this is what they should be told. Those are the things that they should feel about Starfleet. And I felt so good about it. And I think that even though Prodigy isn't really like, it's not set in a regular time frame with a regular crew on the bridge of a regular ship in Starfleet, it isn't any of those things, but it allows for such an amazing introduction for those kids and Diamond's kids and the kids around the world to what Star Trek really is. And this is the best way to bring them into it. I love it so much.
Yeah,
October 27th, by the way.
October 27th.
Yeah, dude, that's it. October 27th, we're getting the second half of season 1.
Yeah.
10 more episodes.
And we're still looking for the Protostar in Star Trek Online.
Ooh! Don't hit me where it hurts, man. That's below the belt.
I'm just going to throw that out there because we're waiting for it.
The Protostar is...
Yeah.
You know what? I take everything back. All of it's gone. Protostar is my favorite ship. I'm putting that on the list. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I know.
Really?
I know. I don't care.
I was keeping records of what everyone picked. I'm changing yours from relativity.
I'm putting it on Protostar, dude. I love that ship so much. To me, it is like a super awesome, hyper futuristic, utterly amazing technology Nova class. It's a tiny little Nova class, and you have to admit, sexiest bridge of all time. Come on, maybe that bridge, dude.
I mean, okay,
You can't throw shade on the bridge. You can't throw shade on the bridge.
You know what? You're expressing love for the Protostar right now, but I'm gonna expose you right now, because if anyone wants to join the Discord, everyone will see that Captain Merrick, his banner, is actually not the Protostar.
Oh no!
It's the what? He's gonna change it real quick, but right now,
hold on, I'm changing.
It's not even it's the Titan.
It is the Titan. I do
and I'm not
love
talking
the Titan.
about the Titan A. I'm talking about the Titan.
Protostar. I had to go grab a screenshot of Merrick's current banner before.
Right.
I just posted a link to the Discord in the chat. By the way, guys, if you've not already joined our Discord, our Star Trek Night Shift related Discord, we've put so much effort into this thing. It is beautiful. It is amazing. It's going to have a lot of fun games, and we're actually going to be hosting. This is my first big wide announcement of this. We're going to be hosting a raffle through a Gold Press Latinum accumulation system. Okay, you're going to be able to get currency in the Discord. Gold Press Latinum, you can gamble it, you can win it from prizes or have it taken away, and you will be able to use it to purchase raffle tickets, which I looked up for like a good precedent. The Lesepian Lottery. Here's trivia. Lesepian Lottery, what was that from?
While
they think about it, potentially Google.
Who mourns for Morn?
Who mourns for Morn? Asher, you rule, dude. Yes, it was the lottery that he supposedly had won, and that's where he got all that Latinum from, which started an amazing, hilarious DS9 episode. But you'll be able to buy lottery tickets in the Discord, and at the end of the month, we're going to hold the raffle on stream, randomly pull a ticket, and the winner is actually going to get an artistic rendition commission of themselves in Lower Decks form from our very own artist, Diamond Dax, in the stream here. So all the Lower Decks pictures you see here, you can get one just like that of you or of your STO character or your cat or whatever it is you want, free of charge if you win the lottery. So come join the Discord, be a part of this. It's going to be awesome.
Don't spoil your Latinum in your second stomach.
But no, Justin is right. I do also love the Titan. A lesser known ship probably, except for in the novel verse. One of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in all of Star Trek, is Commander William Riker. And Riker goes on to captain the Titan in the novel verse for quite a long time. Really awesome. He was the captain for like 10 years or something. And in Lower Decks, season 2, I think is when they busted out with it, right? When Riker came and did the Titan stuff. Some of my favorite cameos, absolute favorite scenes. Jonathan Frakes. So, like, my favorite character is debated, but the favorite person, like human being in the realm of Star Trek, is not debated. Jonathan Frakes is absolutely number one for me. He's an absolute legend. Jonathan Frakes, if you ever see this man, biggest fan right here. And I would grow that beard, bro, if I could. It doesn't grow, but that's what I would do. I would season 2 of podcast.
That good of a beard.
I grow the beard. I mean, you got the closest one here. I doubt Junie can do better than you.
I certainly cannot. Thank you very much.
But from what I've heard, Merrick, like I don't have a lot of competition from you. From what you've said about your growing beards.
No. It grows just like this. I meant to shave today, actually, just to have the mustache, but it grows in a perfect goatee. That's it. That's what I got.
It's kind of cool.
Hey, not with a razor, huh? Just gotta trim it, man.
Oh, man. I get like little tiny hairs, like just like a little one every once in a while. Not enough to grow the luxurious amazingness that is, Riker's beard.
Will Riker's beard. Or Tom Riker's fake beard.
Tom Riker. Well, he's got this. He's got the goatee. Yeah.
Could you remember when he pulls off the sides of the beard?
Yeah.
So good. Because as we all know, goatees are evil.
Of course they are. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've seen the Mirror Universe.
Yes, I was going to say Mirror Universe Spock. That's how you knew he was evil. He had the goatee. What's his name from Chaotica? Right? From Voyager. He had the goatee.
Yep.
Whatever his name was. I forgot the name of the guy.
Bride of Chaotica?
Yeah.
And I was rocking a goatee like last week.
Yeah, dude, he just shaved it. Commander Justin's smooth face now.
Well, now we know you're not actually evil.
Oh, talking
I have to put out
about
my Mirror Universe out.
talking about the Mirror Universe, who is your favorite Mirror Universe character?
Ooh.
Oh.
Can future ones count?
What do you mean
No.
by future one?
No.
Dude,
that's what we would all
that
pick.
one's
That's my favorite. I'm so excited.
I feel like you should explain what you mean by that. Though.
Yes. So at Star Trek Day, we had a bunch of really awesome stuff. I want to go into like a full segment about Star Trek Day in a minute, but one of the amazing things that they did for Star Trek Day that I don't think anyone really anticipated, and it is absolutely indicative of one of the coolest changes that I've seen recently since CBS and Paramount have been coming out with new Trek, Star Trek Online, the massively multiplayer online RPG in the Star Trek universe that's been around for forever. And Paramount have been working hand in hand in a way that I've just never seen before. They're actually getting insider information, getting told things ahead of time. The actors from the new series are all coming over to STO and doing their voices. And this is the coolest thing, some of the actual ships that are only canon inside Star Trek Online have been featured in the actual TV shows and become canonized officially now, which is absolutely amazing. And so they actually brought this up. They brought up STO, gave it a huge shout out at Star Trek Day, which I thought was unprecedented and amazing. And they also revealed the next chapter, the next expansion in the MMO, which has a brand new character, a brand new actor from the Trek universe that has never been seen before, as far as I know, in any major studio release video game of Star Trek, period. And that is Will Wheaton is coming to be the Emperor of the Mirror Universe of the Terran Empire, come to take over the entire galaxy, is Lil Will. Lil Wesley.
So wait, question though. Are we sure it's actually Mirror Universe Wesley, or is it actually Wesley come back? But he went to the Mirror Universe.
No, we don't
know.
know.
It's gotta
That's
be
true.
I mean, he's the Emperor.
Real Wesley
He's
would
the
not be
Emperor,
the
though.
Emperor.
That's true.
I mean, you never know, right?
He's
I mean, his
too
character
nice.
kind of went crazy at the end there a bit.
I mean, he did not have a good farewell.
It was not. It was not.
I feel like they did something so similar with Kes from Voyager, like they did with Wesley's character. Like, I guess that's kind of like the go-to when you need to send a character off into the ether.
Yeah.
That was very exciting. I think. So, in case you guys don't know, the Night Shift also plays STO a lot. This is the other thing that we're going to be streaming here on our channel. You'll see live Let's Plays of Star Trek Online. We made brand new characters 2 weeks ago, going through the story from beginning to end, where we have all 4 of our webcams on stream. Super fun. If you guys are playing STO, definitely join the Discord. Get in touch with us. Join our fleet. It's an awesome place to be. But I think the game has become an incredibly important, factor of the entirety of the Star Trek universe. And I'm gonna give it that much credit because in the however many years it was between the end of Enterprise and the beginning of Discovery, the real content that you could get was in the form of comic books, novels, and Star Trek Online. This game is not just some weird random offshoot. Okay, this is. If you look at the list, and I will put it up in the screen in post, you guys will actually get to see the list of voice actors that they have gotten from the Trek universe. The expansive, enormous list at this point of both current Trek actors and older Trek actors and even now departed Trek actors that have come and reprised their roles in this series. It is enormous. This has become a big part of what Star Trek really is, and Star Trek Online is literally a love letter to the fans of Trek. Every single, and Azure and I have talked about this at great length, but every single little question mark, unfinished episode, little breadcrumb that they leave that they never explain. If you ever like, hey, I wonder what happened at the end of this, they never explain. They never come back to that species or whatever. I can almost guarantee you, guess who did? Star Trek Online did. And they will flush out an entire story around something that was left as this big mystery at the end. And so for so many of us wanting more and more Star Trek over the years, we got it in Star Trek Online. So I think they deserve that shout out. I love that they are doing so well still, that there's so many people who are coming to the game now, that there's so much new content. So, huge up to Star Trek Day producers for bringing in Star Trek Online, shouting that out. Huge shout out to Will Wheaton, obviously, who's a legend. I love the guy. And he's coming to do a character here. I think it's all phenomenal. So you guys should play it if you don't already. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and just to build a little bit, you were talking about like resolving or like following up on like these big question marks or whatever. They also bring up some really tiny details that just make you appreciate it if you've seen the episode that they're referencing.
Yeah.
Like they're very good at like
You got an example?
knowing the Star Trek lore. No, actually, I don't off the top
Well,
of my
they're
head.
also, I mean, not necessarily this example, but they're also really good, like you said, not just like tying up these little like loose ends, but they even progress character stories.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
With very interesting character stories. Like they kind of show you what happens with Nog. They show you what happens with, you know, Tom and Balana's child and all of these other things. So like
God,
they
yeah,
really,
you're right.
yeah, like they really do create such an interesting, expansive lore. And I don't know if they consider it canon or not. Probably not. But I you know, it's really fascinating.
Closer and closer, right? Because
Well,
they're actually
Yeah.
acknowledging STO in weird little ways now in the actual universe. So
Well, and in the
It's
ship
canon
museum
again.
that we flew through the other day, we learned that Miles O'Brien's son serves aboard a ship.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. That would be Hero. No, I know.
No.
No.
She wanted to name him Hero. Wasn't that the thing? And it was they were
Yeah.
debating
Oh, he
about it in the
almost got
episode.
named that.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't remember. They went through a couple other names too.
O'Brien also in the list of maybe the best characters in all of Star Trek.
Oh,
they
for
even give
sure.
him a nod, dude, in Lower
yeah.
Decks at the
In
end of
Lower
one of those
Decks,
episodes. They're
yeah.
like, and now moving on to the most influential character in the Federation's history, Miles Edward O'Brien. There's a
Well, I
giant
mean, and
statue of
it's
him.
great that they do that because his character takes on so many of the hardest episodes in Deep Space
Yeah,
Nine.
that's so true.
Like,
What do they call him again?
O'Brien must
O'Brien
suffer.
must suffer.
right, like that,
An
that
O'Brien must
poor
suffer
man
episode.
has suffered so much in so many different episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Remember when he went to prison for like 20 years?
Of
but not
course,
Oh,
like
God.
like
Yeah,
just the
Jesus.
level of
you
PTSD
imagine?
that character must have at this point is just over.
one of the
moon.
only, one of the only real moments of like a character contemplating suicide in Star Trek, right? I'm gonna have to blur that out. Actually, I don't think we're supposed to say that on YouTube. But yeah, that was a heavy episode, man. That's actually, I think, a tribute to DS9 and so much of like the heavy stuff that they get into in that show. The other one was Nog, right? Like Nog went through and explored real PTSD. I remember Aaron Eisenberg talking about like military veterans writing him letters, going up to him on the street and just being like, thank you so much for like how you and your character and that role and that story arc reflected what I had gone through. And they took the time. He didn't get over it in 2 seconds. He went through real stuff.
No.
He was violent. He lost friends. He turned inward. He turned outward. Like it was really bad. And he also just could not face life again. And I think that's part of the responsibility of Star Trek, right? They went into war in DS9 and they showed the ugly side of war, especially in the 90s, dude. That was almost unheard of. It was amazing.
I thought they did a really good job with that Nog arc too. That was just really well done.
Nog
I
is
mean,
the best,
the
dude.
O'Brien episode where he was going through that after like his like mental imprisonment thing.
Yeah.
Like some of the interactions between him and Julian were really good as well. Like just felt very authentic.
Oh yeah, when he's in the cargo bay with the phaser and he's trying to to end his life, that was huge. I try to imagine. I mean, so Justin, you were saying earlier that like sometimes you watch an episode when you need to see it, right? Like it kind of comes up. I would argue that this is true of maybe the best media in the world: a book, a musical, a movie, or a TV show. In the case of Star Trek, it almost doesn't matter. But like when something is really, really good, I feel like every time, and like Azure, I have rewatched all Trek, 10 times. I don't know, a huge amount of times.
Yeah.
But what makes Trek so good is that every single time I watch it, these episodes that you can literally hear me quote them, right? Like ahead of time. Like I know the lines, I've seen them so many times, but I get something new out of it every single time. Don't you like focus on something different or get some new attribute or learn something new about the episode or get some sort of new bit of trivia or like this time that you watched it, like the trauma that O'Brien went through really moved you in some different way because of what was going on in your life at that time. I think that's the power of incredibly well written, stories and characters, because Trek is all about characters, right? Just amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so continue on. Let's move on to our segment about. Oh no, go ahead.
No, you might have been about to transition back to. I thought we were about to skip the favorite Mirror Universe thing.
Oh no!
Oh,
Yo, no,
yeah.
you're right. Yeah, go. What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
Oh man, ironically, because we were just talking about Miles
Oh
O'Brien,
wait,
I think it's
have
got to
an
be
idea.
Smiley.
Oh, is it Smiley? I thought you were gonna say
Smiley.
Killy.
Oh, Killy's very good.
Does she count though? I don't know if she counts. I guess.
Of course she counts.
No, because
Well-
she's not Mirror Universe. She just goes to the Mirror Universe. and
We've
has to
seen
pretend.
Killy.
Oh.
We've seen actual Mirror Universe Killy in STO though.
That's true.
But I don't.
Yeah.
From the show, I don't think she counts. But it is very funny watching Tilly try to pretend to be her Mirror Universe self.
Oh yeah, the
It's
pretend.
the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
But no,
Can we
I'm
just give
gonna have to say
appreciation to
Smiley.
Lorca?
Smiley is
Oh,
good.
Lorca.
Oh,
Well-
Lorca. Yeah.
Yeah, no. If we're going like actual, not STO, but like actual characters from like the TV series for Mirror Universe, I'm Lorca 100%. 100%. First of all, I love Jason Isaacs. That actor is phenomenal, right? He's so good in anything that he does. And he rocks that role. I am so mad. First of all, that he ended up being Mirror Universe in the first place. And then, of course, that he had to leave the show. I'm going to throw it out there right now. Hashtag find Prime Lorca. Okay? I want Prime Lorca. Where is
Yeah,
he
I
at?
want Prime Lorca.
Because we need more of him.
I want more of that. Yeah, I definitely want more of that, dude.
What about you, Justin?
It was
What's your
so
favorite?
good. That's who it is, Lorca,
Oh, no,
man.
it's Lorca.
Really?
Okay, let's
Wow.
go. Let's
Lorca,
go.
dude. Well, because if you think about Lorca, man, it's so underrated. Like, you don't really find out too much about him until later. Like you start to clue in a little bit as to like, oh, he's not exactly where he's from, and then you start to speculate as to what it might be. You're not really too sure if it's from the Mirror Universe, but then you're like, I think it is, and then they reveal it, and you're like, oh, damn, nice. But yeah, Lorca.
Yeah, it was
man.
a big turnaround.
I'm all for that. The Lorca, dude.
Okay, Junie, I'm going to guess it's got to be Spock for you. Is it Spock?
Okay, so that was one of my two. I was trying to be
Ooh.
objective because when the word favorite comes up, it's really hard not to choose something from the original series, just from the nostalgia. So
figured-
yes, of course, a Spock, Mirror Universe Spock pops up as like, well, that's the iconic, original, awesome Mirror Universe character. But I think it's worthy to mention the Intendant from DS9 by Not a Visitor because that character was just there were so many episodes. It got so fleshed out, and it was such a departure from the Kira character.
Kira,
So
yeah.
I think that's definitely worth like mentioning if I strip away a little bit of my nostalgic attachment to
That woman.
Mirror
is-
Universe Spock.
That Nana Visitor is a absolute legend. She's such a tour de force. I feel like she doesn't get enough credit for the role that she put on. For anyone who doesn't know, here's some trivia for you. DS9 was planned for a while. They introduced the dynamic of the Cardassians and the Bajorans and the occupation all in TNG, right? We saw that whole thing show up. And a really good episode series that happened from TNG was the exploration of that dynamic with Ro, right? Ensign Ro,
Oh, yeah.
which was the first real Bajoran character that we got to interact with. The role of Major Kira was written for her. That entire series was supposed to be Ensign Ro. No joke. It was written for her, and she turned it down. I recently saw an interview with her where I didn't get to see the whole thing. I saw like a brief interaction with her. It was a clip in another YouTube video I was watching, but she started to say something to the effect of like, there's a mythos that goes around about her turning down that role for this reason or that reason that she feels is negative and isn't true. So there's some real detail there, and I'll have to look that up. But I do know that she turned it down and that it was going to be entirely for her, and they ended up liking the dynamic, wanting the show, keeping the role, and then needing to recast it. No, I like Ro, but oh my God, a Star Trek and a DS9 without Nana Visitor would be a shame. That woman is amazing. And so what's kind of crazy about her, go back and watch DS9. She gets better looking, more amazing as a character, and more beautiful as every season goes by. She is, and you know what? She's older now. She's beautiful and amazing and so sweet. She's actually one of the actors in general that I would want to meet the most in all of Star Trek. She's really high on that list. I love her. Nana Visitor, heart. You're awesome.
We were talking, like potential trivia, but also we're not sponsored. But I do want to throw a shout out. She does have a book coming out about Star Trek.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
she does.
Oh, I didn't hear about
I don't
this.
think it's expected. I don't think it's supposed to come out till 2023. But it talks about how Star Trek has helped create like feminist icons through like the female characters.
Ooh. And
Absolutely.
DS9 chiefly among them, right? Oh my gosh,
Oh,
DS9
for sure.
was incredible. The very
I mean, I think that was the start of it. That was the real start of it.
It was, because you actually get a lot of there's a lot of complaints actually about TNG. It's unfortunate that Tasha Yar ended up leaving, and now let's not forget that Denise Crosby chose to leave. That was her leaving, and she would have been like a really good, strong female character in that show, I think. But you actually hear a lot from Gates McFadden and Marina Sirtis, sort of like, kind of taking Star Trek to task, right, about the level of female characters and the kind of female roles and episodes that they had access to. I think they feel like TNG dropped the ball on strong feminist characters, and there's an argument to be made for that, right? Go ahead, Azure. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to chime in and say, like, I don't know where I exactly come down on that argument, but I totally understand making that argument about the TNG characters.
Yeah, you can definitely make that argument. And then you move to DS9, right? Which was, let's be honest, guys, the redheaded stepchild of Star Trek. It just was. It was sandwiched in between TNG and Voyager. It was never running on its own ever. It was completely overlapped. It ran either concurrently to TNG or concurrently to Voyager. That was a big selling point for United Paramount Network at the time. That show couldn't fail. They couldn't just cancel it, but the ratings weren't good. They were constantly being berated by the studios. They were constantly in battles trying to do what they wanted to do. And the studio was kind of like, no one's really watching you. We don't know what you're doing. I guess just, don't make too much noise. Don't take too much money. That's basically what they did. And literally, like, if you guys haven't seen, and you should absolutely go see, you need to go and watch the documentary called What We Left Behind. It really changes. It puts so many things in perspective about how that ended up happening. But they really got to do a lot of things because they were sort of left to their own devices. And some of that was in the development of the characters that they did. If you look at Jadzia Dax, who at the beginning of the show starts a little weak, right? But she becomes maybe one of the greatest, strongest female characters ever. And then also Akira, who's completely different and incredibly strong-willed, right? Absolutely amazing. There's real arguments even for Keiko O'Brien. She gets to be quite a role in that as well. I think the DS9 does such a good job with that.
I always think back to episode 1 of Deep Space Nine when Sisko and O'Brien are interacting, and O'Brien's like, "Have you ever served with any Bajoran women?"
Oh yeah.
and Miles is just like, "Oh, just wondering." Because he's about to go meet Kira.
I don't remember that. I'm gonna go back and watch that now.
It's
just thinking about this.
I do love how they want to bring back Dax, though. They want to. Bring her back.
She wants to come back, man. That's the coolest thing.
Yeah. Right?
I would be.
I mean, it's Star Trek. Right? It's Star Trek.
I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah, it could be a transporter accident, or maybe the Borg resurrected them. Or
time,
I can't think of the other things they say
temporal.
in Lower Decks.
Temporal, man.
Temporal thing.
They could do anything with time. What makes it tricky, and I've thought about this, right? So Terry Farrell, who plays Jadzia Dax, she... Obviously, it's complicated, right? This is one of the greatest and most debated things that has ever happened in all of Star Trek was Jadzia leaving DS9 in Season 6. This was a shocker for everyone. And there is so much behind-the-scenes drama, disagreements about how this went down. In fact, even in the documentary, they really go into it as much as they can. But what they end up saying... Point blank is what they end up saying is the only people who really know what went down behind the scenes between the studio and Terry are just them. No one else knows, and no one else will ever know. That's what they say in the documentary. Even though she's in the documentary and she makes comments about it, they're very upfront about it. Like, nobody really knows. There's some weird stuff about how that went down. But I do know she put 6 years into the show, one of the most beloved characters of all time, has probably one of the greatest character evolutions ever. She starts off, like I said, really weak. Season 1 Jadzia is not Season 6 Jadzia. My God, are they completely different. But she left, and what makes her coming back to the series more complicated than anything else is the fact that because of the way that the Dax symbiont works, like, we know that Ezri's still around, man. Like, she would have to, like, concurrently live with that. There would have to be 2 Dax symbionts. It makes it tricky. So my take on this is that it would have to be temporal sort of influence. But here's the thing. Now, nerds, fellow nerds of Star Trek, back me up on this. What was happening when she was killed by Gul Dukat? Anyone?
Wait, like overall?
She was praying at the. She
was praying at the shrine of the prophets, who are what? By their very nature, temporal.
Oh yeah, they exist. They don't experience time linearly.
Exactly,
right,
dude.
that's
When Cisco leaves, right? She goes, "How long are you going to be gone?" He says, "It could be a day. It could be a year. It could be yesterday." Right? Because that's the prophets. So there's freaking precedent for it, man. She was praying for the first time ever to the prophets in the shrine, in front of a bloody orb of the prophets when she was killed. Absolutely. Do you think that the prophets could spit her out again? 100% yes.
Oh, here's what we do. Cisco brings her back.
Yes, dude.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
But
There you go.
if we were to go that route, would it be Jadzia without Dax?
It'd certainly be weird to have 2 Daxes.
No, it would be with Dax.
But then there would be 2 Daxes.
Yes. Yeah. But
Yeah,
that could be okay.
What if they just bring her back as Jadzia?
She did not remember the episode. She did not love being without the symbiote.
Yeah, it's true.
No, she did not like that.
I mean, to be
That
fair,
was
like
tough.
she had just, had herself cut open and her symbiote ripped out. So I kind of get it. Emotional time.
Yes. Yeah, that was a tough episode, but one of the episodes I really enjoy when it gets to it because I like to see Tim Russ as an angry Klingon.
Right?
That's Tuvok for anyone who doesn't know. Tuvok played an
I
angry
always forget
Klingon.
that that's him.
Yes, it is. Tuvok has played, as far as I know, 2 humans, a Vulcan, and a Klingon on Next Gen or on Star Trek in general. He was a Klingon in that episode. He was a human on the bridge of the Enterprise B in Star Trek Generations. If you guys remember, he was on the bridge.
Yep.
And he was, of course, a Vulcan
Trying
as
to rob the
Tuvok.
Enterprise.
And then also, here's the last one. Anyone remember the last one? He played a human.
He was the thing where they were getting the ship swept by
The Baryon Sweep.
Baryon Sweep.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude.
He's
Good
one
job,
of the
Andrew.
thieves.
Yes, he gets his butt kicked by Picard, actually.
Oh yeah, Picard hits him with a saddle.
He does. He hits him with a saddle. He's threatened with like a laser torch or something. He's got like this.
Oh right,
laser gun.
after he points out to Picard that the phaser won't work.
Yes. Yeah, Tim Russ, one of my faves. You're going to hear me in the course of this podcast over a long time use a certain phrase that I have sort of coined a while ago that is very important to me. I think when you're dealing with Star Trek, there's weird, an ethos here, right? When it comes to like old Trek actors. Like if you go back in all the drama that happened in the original series, a lot of people, including Kirk, most famously Kirk, William Shatner, felt that Star Trek, while it was a launch pad for him, later in life, right, 20 years after he actually did the show, when he was actually in the show, it didn't do anything for him. And then there was this crazy swell about like the Trek fandom, and he actually felt like Star Trek held him back. Because people were like, we're looking for a leading man for this, but we don't want Captain Kirk for this role. Like he felt like he was completely typecast by this. There's some validity to that, but what I'm always really defensive about when it comes to Star Trek is that Star Trek takes care of anyone who has even a peripheral interaction with the Star Trek universe, literally for the rest of their lives. If you get a part on a show or a movie or anything, you can literally run the Star Trek convention circuit for the rest of your existence, and they will take care of you. I mean, Star Trek is like a family, and they really take care of anyone that has anything to do with it. It's kind of a big deal. So I've always been really defensive about the franchise. If there's somebody who was in it and then has like a lot of disparaging things to say about it or resents it in some way, or even worse, goes and does all of the convention circuits and all that, but then spends all that time being negative. There are certain people who are what I like to call a friend to the franchise. These guys love Trek, and they really do what they can to build up Star Trek as a whole and really interact with their fans in a positive way. And one of the nicest people that's ever worked in Star Trek is Tim Russ. The guy is awesome. He's such a great dude. So, big fan. And, you know, one of the greatest Vulcans. I mean, I felt like, don't you feel like Tim Russ, like Tuvok is almost the Vulcanist Vulcan that exists as a Vulcan? He's, for like what we think of as Vulcan.
That was quite a phrase.
I'm just saying, like he's, you know, he's more Vulcan than Spock. Spock is way more emotional than
Spock is. I mean, Spock is half.
To be fair, I was going to say Tim Russ twice as Vulcan.
Yeah.
Yes, two times as Vulcan.
He's also great in Star Trek Online.
Oh God, yes.
So just so you know,
he plays a great role in Star Trek Online.
I feel like Tuvok really is the ideal Vulcan.
Well, there's
if
even
we're going to have an ideal Vulcan.
A super interesting episode that I thought got to explore Tuvok a little more was the one where he and Tom get stranded in that like temporal spatial anomaly thing when they land on a planet where time is moving differently than it is for Voyager.
Oh my God, that's a good episode. Yes.
I don't remember the name of that episode, sadly, but like where it explores like what he was like as a kid and when he had to go see like the Vulcan master to like master his emotions and stuff.
Yeah, when he was actually sort of like he was kind of like a stubborn, argumentative child Vulcan, right? Like
like he was like, why do I need logic?
Yeah. I loved the actor who played young Tuvok too. I felt like he did that really well.
Yeah, but anyway, Tuvok, very good Vulcan.
Yeah, solid. I was hoping to see, man, we need more of that. We're getting so much love for. And it started basically an entire new generation of this, like, let's bring Star Trek back, right? If we can say one amazing thing is going to come from Picard, it's that it's setting a precedent. Like, Patrick Stewart is an older guy, and he's still kicking butt. Like, Patrick Stewart is amazing, right? It's absolutely one of my favorite actors of all time, for sure. But he's an older guy, but he's still able to come and bring, you know, that character back to life and everyone that was around him in Star Trek Picard. Like, I would love to see this happen with Voyager because so many of those guys are still around. So many of those guys are still super into Trek, right? Like Robert Picardo and Garrett Wang are some of the biggest Trekkies and genuinely awesomest people who still live that Star Trek life, dude. I just love that vibe so much. I want to see all those guys come back. I want to see a whole new series with Tim Russ. You know?
Well, and I've mentioned this to you before, Merrick, but like Garrett Wang and oh my God, why can't I think of his name?
Yes, Diamond.
Robert
Duncan McNeil.
Robert Duncan McNeil, there it is.
Yeah.
Still do their Delta Flyers podcast.
Yes, the podcast.
Where they watch episodes of Voyager and then like reflect on it.
How cool is that? Yeah, Robert Duncan McNeil is also an awesome dude. In fact, the entire Voyager crew is just great. Some of my favorite interactions actually are like Ethan Phillips, who played Neelix, and Robert Picardo. Those two guys together they're such good friends, like lifelong friends, and their dynamic is amazing. I would absolutely love to go hang out with the Voyager crew. Those guys are great.
100%. And that's actually what I love. Like, I actually haven't listened to too many episodes of the Delta Flyers podcast, but what I love about it is like Garrett Wang and Robert Duncan McNeil still hanging out. It's been 20 plus years.
Right? And they're still friends. So that brings up something that I was sort of looking forward to talking about on the podcast at some point. And that is an element that I think really I've been trying to put my finger on, and I think I tried to articulate it at the beginning of the podcast here, but like, what is it about me that feels differently about modern Trek than old Trek? You know, like what is it that's different about Disco and Picard? Like, why am I not getting everything I want from that? Not to say that it's bad. There's great things and some things I'm really looking forward to, which are really exciting. But there's always been like an itch that just isn't scratched from that, and I try to figure out what it is. And I think it all goes back to one simple thing that is maybe oversimplifying, but it makes such a difference for me. At the end of every episode of Next Generation, every single one, and at the beginning of every episode of the original series, or DS9, or Voyager, it's that at the end of that show, like we were sort of memeing when we called Jean-Luc Picard, our TV space dad. But it felt like that to me, right? Like people watch like sitcoms or whatever when they were growing up. They felt like they were part of that family. But that's what it is. Every episode of those Star Treks, I want to be a part of that family. Like I want to be there. I feel like they are my family. I've watched them my whole lives and I love these people. I want to be there. I want to be friends with them. I want to be in 10 Forward talking about the latest crazy thing that happened with broccoli or whatever with everybody. I want to be sitting at the poker table, right? These are my family and I love them and I want to be a part of that. As much as there are things that I really appreciate about Picard and about Disco, that's it. That's the feeling I'm missing. They don't feel like a family and I don't sit at the end of every episode going, man, I wish I was a part of that crew. I would give anything to be a part of that ship. That's the feeling. If I had to boil it down to one sentence, that is it. And somehow that isn't there. But when I watch, Voyager, we're talking about Voyager, that group, dude, they're such good friends and they still hang out and they're such great people. And it's such this feeling. One of the great examples that I bring up a lot about the difference between TOS and TNG is sort of solidified in a single interview. There was an interview when all of TNG finally wrapped. Guinan or Whoopi Goldberg put on what I think they called it the captain's table. It was basically like a like really stripped down interview format, and it was Whoopi Goldberg as the interviewer, and it was Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes, right, captain and first officer, and then Will Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, right, captain and first officer. And it was the four of them being interviewed. It took all of 2 seconds to see the enormous difference between them because Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes are best friends, and they have been best friends their whole since that show. They like all the stories and the laughing and the hugs and you could just tell that they're really close. And it just wasn't that way on the other side of that table. And I think that actually has always a little bit detracted for me from TOS, because in the show itself, it seems like there's such a family, especially in the movies. My God, it's so tangible. These guys have been through so much, and they're older and they love each other. But when the knowledge creeps in, then I'm like, I know behind the scenes that's not the case. It hurts me. It hurts me, man.
Well, and I think that's part of what has so quickly and strongly endeared me to Strange New Worlds is I don't know what those actors are like behind the scenes with each other, but you can feel the enjoyment of them filming some of those episodes.
Actually, in Strange New Worlds, that crew, they're actually really tight.
Okay, that's what I assumed, but I was just saying, really I haven't actually looked it up. But
doesn't it make you happy that they are? Like, don't you root for
No, it
that
absolutely
to be?
does. But like that one episode, the fairy tale book episode, you could feel them having fun making that episode. Like,
do you know they were asked what their favorite episode was, and almost everyone said that episode. They had so much fun with that episode, dude. And how could you not? That was Star Trek, the original series, in a nutshell. Like if you could wrap up, like what is the feeling of that show? That episode was perfect. It was such a representation of that vibe.
And like you said, knowing some of the backstory, might change the way you feel about it, like retroactively. But the original series did do a very good job, like from not knowing anything from behind the scenes. As far as you could tell, everything looked and felt really good. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not a requirement, right? Like, people can get that without it being true. You can get that like magical phenomenon on a set and get that chemistry there, whether people necessarily are like super friends behind the scenes or not.
And yet for the fans, does it make a difference when they are friends? I just love it, man.
It does have an effect. It does definitely have an effect. Yeah.
When TOS actors have to sit on opposite sides of the stage or can't be on the same stage at the same time at conventions, this has happened. This is real. Does that not break your heart? It ruins the illusion of that friendship that you grew up caring so much about. And when you see Next Gen is the ultimate example. Those guys are just best friends for life. They get together and they're hugging on each other and laughing and teasing each other, doing impressions of each other, just love each other. It adds so much to that feeling of like that family that I've always wanted to be a part of. They're really a family. Like, and that just adds something to the fandom. For me anyway. I'll speak for myself, but it adds a lot for me.
No, I agree with you.
So
would
we
you
did get.
say? Would you say, just to go on from that question? Would you say that that's part of the reason that things like TNG and DS9 and Voyager give you that feeling, and why Strange New Worlds does as well? But things like Discovery and Picard, not. I don't know if this is going to come across funny, but like the other shows showed like very good functional families that you desperately would want to be a part of. And then there's certain portions of the new Picard and Discovery that it's almost
So
like
dysfunctional families?
Dysfunctional families. And do you really want to be a part of that?
There's some
Maybe
validity
not.
to that. Yeah. Go ahead, Asher.
No. I was just saying that's like actually kind of a really good way to sum that up for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like the fact that everyone has like a really good bond in TNG and in Strange New Worlds, because like I want to point out a little bit here on a fact that that David even said in the chat. He said that, you know, what about the Spock and the new Kirk? And you know, from what Ethan Peck has said, he said, you know, he quotes, for my episode 1 with Spock, we kind of went with what was on the page. In season 2, we get to explore more of their dynamic. I can't get too much into it. What I will say is that Ethan and I are actually genuinely friends now. It's so funny, and I'm not sure if it's subconscious, but we actually have the Kirk and Spock dynamic in real life. It's so funny. We chat, we hang out, we'll grab dinner, we'll go get a drink, we text all the time. We have this sort of natural thing that he and I have developed. It makes it so much easier on screen because we can just be ourselves. And I think that, in essence, you know, when you see that on,
Don't you
Strange New
fangirl
Worlds,
when you hear that, dude? I just love that
100%.
feeling, man. That's
Like,
awesome.
That's just the new Kirk and Spock. And like for me,
Yes.
you know, like it's so much more. It's so much more greater in seeing that.
Yes.
And being able to see that and knowing that that's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Like as a foundation, and then going into season 2 of Strange New Worlds, I want it now. Like that's something that I want to see now, man. Like
It just adds to the
my
hype, man.
goodness. Yeah,
It
100%.
adds to it is what it is. Like, we're Trekkies, man. We obsess over something that isn't real, and we obsess at a level that like we want to make it real as much as possible. If other things contribute to making that real, dude, that just adds to it. It's so cool. If they're friends like that, that's great. And in fact, I want to say another thing about the Strange New Worlds guys, especially Anson Mount, who I think is one of my favorite human beings. He's just one of my favorite actors now. I just love this guy from top to bottom. He's so incredible. But one of the most amazing things that I keep seeing is like how fortunate he feels. He feels gratitude, right? Like real excitement, and he's super thankful and just shock and awe at the fact that he gets to carry the mantle of Kirk. I mean, of not of Kirk, but like of being a part of Star Trek in the role like Kirk, that he gets to be a captain of the Enterprise. That adds something to me for me too. It's basically, it makes him so relatable. Like if I were to be able to be a captain of the Enterprise, if I were able, like, and Justin and I have talked about this, if I could just be an extra that walks on the bridge and hands him a pad, like I would just be the happiest human being for the rest of my life. Like you have to just take a moment to appreciate an actor who doesn't look at it as just another job, right? He recognizes what this is. He's grateful for the opportunity and feels lucky to be a part of this great, amazing thing that we all love so much that's been going on for 56 years. There are actors that aren't that way. And to see somebody who gets to be the captain of the Enterprise, leading us in this new generation of Star Trek in this amazing way, and feels as fortunate as we would feel in his shoes, makes it so amazing. I just love the guy so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I definitely tease about it all the time, saying like, no, I just want to be casted as an extra, just so that I can like at least shake his hand or just read him his like, you know, his itinerary for the day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
His lunch menu.
His lunch menu.
No. Can he put the apron on me while I chop up some vegetables?
Yeah. I would absolutely lose it, man. Like if I saw him, like, you know, they'd probably be like they'd be so pissed off at me because they'd be like, oh, okay, that's like take 50 at this point. I'm like, guys, I just can't. Like,
I just want to keep touching him. Can I just keep shaking his hand?
Can I give you a hug? I've never
some point
watched
they're
myself.
like, Justin, this is costing us too much money to have.
100%, man. He's like, is this supposed to happen? He's just looking at me. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Man. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. That's not, I love you. Just like, you know, just oh god.
That's so great.
But you know, it's so cool to see how Paul Wesley is really going into the Kirk role too as well. And I just want to point out the fact as to, you know, with Strange New Worlds coming into season 2, we're getting a lot of it, and I think a lot of talk was about, are we going to get a new TOS and so forth. But I wanted to quote something from Paul Wesley that he actually said. He goes, "You get this glimmer in the finale of season 1, the first time Kirk appears on screen, and he says, 'Impressive, Mr. Spock.' He immediately recognizes that this guy has a different way of thinking that's very intriguing to him. So we get a glimmer of it, but that's not what that episode is about. And ultimately, in season 2, this is still Pike's show. It's Pike and Spock and Uhura. It's pre-Kirk Enterprise. Everything that happens, Kirk is part of that timeline. It's just not the Kirk show. That's just not this is yet, at least, right? So
don't you love that though? Then he takes the time to say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's how their show came about in the first place. They started in Discovery season 2. They came in and represented something amazing. I think they were like a ship in a bottle in the middle of this show where people weren't quite getting what they expected. I guess, like I said, it was different, but people shipped that ship. Much that they made it a reality, and so there's precedent for them to be like, whoa, I know you like us, I know we're awesome, but we're not taking away from this show. This is the Pike era, and God help me, I'm so glad it is. Okay, I want more Paul Wesley as Kirk. I love it. Give it to me someday. But Anson Mount and Pike and the 10 years of time that we have to work with for Strange New Worlds, every single moment, every episode, every year that we get out of this is a gift for me. Like, I'm not rushing nothing. This is where I want to be with Star Trek.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a brilliant way to be able to bring some of those other characters in, like Spock and Uhura, but not do what is so difficult, which is replacing or remaking the original series, which I don't think would have gone over very well as a series. Like, it needed to be this, and magically enough, the original series gave them a perfect avenue to do that with the pilot, with Pike, with an entire character that had such a rich backstory that we never really got to hear anything about.
Yeah, can we take a moment to acknowledge even the fact that exists? That is one of the coolest things that television has ever done, ever. And those of you, all of you in the chat and here in the night shift who have not seen TOS, you guys got to watch at least a little bit of TOS in terms of the menagerie in the cage. Science Officer Azure. I see him hiding. Yeah. The truth is that it's one of the coolest things that television has ever done. So in case you guys don't know the backstory of Strange New Worlds, in 1966, or I guess 1965, I don't know, when they put together a pilot episode for TOS, they had basically none of the characters that you know and recognize from Star Trek today. They had just Spock. He was the only character that was the same. They had a pilot episode with not even Captain Kirk. It was Jeffrey Hunter who played Captain Pike. He had exactly one episode. It was the pilot, and then at the end of that episode, they pitched it to the studio, and the studio said, "Nope, we don't like it. And here's the quote: too cerebral. We want something more akin to a Western, basically." And so the repitch, basically, Gene Roddenberry went back to the drawing board, had to rework a ton of stuff, and ended up casting Bill Shatner, getting rid of Jeffrey Hunter and all of the cast, except he fought to keep Spock. This is one of the greatest things in television history. The studio specifically said, "We want you to rework the whole show, but number one thing, we want Spock gone," because he looked like a devil. And they did not think, seriously, like the pointed ears and the eyebrows. And they were like, he looks like a devil. We don't think we can pitch this to conservative, church-going communities in the South. We want you to rework him. He reworked the entire show, but fought and fought and fought to keep Leonard Nimoy as Spock. He wanted Spock so bad, basically. Like that's how close we were to losing.
And what a good decision.
The greatest character that defined Star Trek for the rest of history. We almost lost him. So they reworked the show. They brought on Bill Shatner as a sort of swaggering, much more jovial sort of captain, right? Less cerebral. And they went back to the studio and they pitched it as, and this is another really famous quote, "Wagon Train to the Stars" is what they pitched it as, because Wagon Train was another show of the era of the 60s or before that was a sort of like cheeky Western. And so they were like, this is Wagon Train to the Stars. And they even brought on DeForest Kelley, who at the time was by far and away the most famous actor who was on the show. He was already a movie star and had done mostly Westerns. And so they brought him on to sort of lend to that. But here's what made Star Trek, the original series, so cool and unprecedented, is they decided to keep the pilot episode and keep it canon. They didn't rewrite it. They left it as something that happened. And so the Enterprise itself and Spock, the only two characters that actually persisted from the pilot to the actual show, that gap was 10 years. So 10 years after the pilot starts the actual next episode, and they leave it as canon. And what's really cool is that later in that season, they go back. Basically, they bring that story forward and bring back Jeffrey Hunter as Pike, and that he has the horrible accident that is, and you guys got to watch this episode. It would be too hard for me to explain, and it would spoil it for you, but it's quite amazing. They basically go back and start that entire storyline that is now the crux of Anson Mount Pike's character's life, right? Like that he knows that accident is coming. They make that whole thing canon in the original series.
But even that accident, and like I said, not to spoil it for Azure in this moment, but you know, the things that implies, like I remember as a young child, like watching that episode and just being fascinated by that whole concept of what happens to him and the choice that he has to make and the ultimate choice that he does make at the end. And some of those philosophical concepts, like that will stick with me forever. And I think that's what the original series really did. And you can argue that maybe it didn't go as in depth as things like TNG and Deep Space Nine, and it was a little bit more cursory, but it was kind of the sign of the times. I mean, everything was a little bit more surface level back then. Oh, yeah. But if it gave you that seed, right? It gave you the seed of that little like seed of like concept, and you could then end up like thinking about it later and afterwards and extrapolating on it. And I think that's really what set the tone for everything going forward.
You mean like the morality of Star Trek?
I'll watch the episode.
And not just the morality, but like some of those concepts of like what would you choose and would that be a good life and what is life even?
I think some of my favorite things about the original series, they feel a little flat and on the nose nowadays, but it's set. I mean, people don't give Star Trek the credit it deserves. If the greatest thing that sci-fi can preach today is a gift given to them by Star Trek, specifically by Star Trek, and that is that we can tackle the social justice issues of the day, like the socio-political issues of modern society that we don't feel comfortable talking about, right? That are polarizing or incisive, that really turn people against each other. They're so emotionally charged when they're set talking about it here. If you were to, and there are shows like that where they set the show in modern day politics in the White House or in something like House of Cards or whatever. It's meant to be like really charged. But what is so cool about sci-fi that Star Trek really defined in the first place is, if we go 400 years in the future, we're evolved past all of this. We can talk about racism. We're not ready to talk about racism on television. We're not ready. We're not ready to talk about black people and white people and the 60s, tension in the 60s. We're not ready to talk about this. But you know what we can do? We can go to an alien planet where, and this is a real episode for those of you guys who have not seen TOS. Basically, an alien comes aboard who's running from the law, and a lawman from that same planet is chasing after them. And the guy ends up on the Enterprise and tries to request asylum, and the other one's like, no, him and his people are like beneath us, and they're terrible, and they need to be arrested and washed because they're clearly inferior. And what the actual species is, and I'll put this in post, is the race is cut down the middle. One half of their body is completely black, and the other half of their body is completely white. And that's just what it is. So the guy who's there is like half black and half white, and the one who's chasing after him is half black and half white. And he goes, well, can't you see the difference? He's clearly inferior. We need to, he's so much worse than me. We need to arrest him. He goes, what do you, Kirk and everyone's like, what are you talking about? You're both half black and half white. He goes, yeah, but I'm black on the right side and left on the white side. Or on the right side. He's the other way around. And it seems on the nose, right? It's a little too on the nose. But back then it was like, you remove it from the emotionally charged dynamic of modern society that we can all relate to. You bring it to an alien planet and then show just how silly that is. How can you look at that and think anything other than, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And that is really what racism is. And it really pauses people to stop and think about that. And again, on the nose for today, but back then it was enough to make people like sit in their chair and look at each other, on the couch and be like, huh, and that's all it took. And that's what Star Trek has done ever since. And not just Star Trek, but all of sci-fi. The best sci-fi explores human issues in science fiction in the future. It's like before Star Trek, do you know what sci-fi was? Attack from Planet X. Like
Captain
alien
Proton.
from Captain Proton. Exactly, man. That's what all of sci-fi was. Pointless B-movie monster drivel. Like that was what sci-fi was before Star Trek, and we gotta be grateful for that paradigm shift. I mean, that's how much we owe the greatest franchise of all time. And you can give thanks to TOS for that, Judy, because like really they pitched that whole thing. All right, so
I'm still in it for the phasers and the Star Trek.
and the explosions. He wants those double fist punch, the double fist slams.
Hey, there's nothing better than a double fist slam on top of a Gorn with William Shatner doing it. Like that's
In slow motion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget about the slow-mo.
I'm not gonna lie. I was
Battle of
expecting
Matar
this
Nebula.
phrase, nothing better than a double fist slam on top of a Gorn.
By William Shatner. It has to be William Shatner that does it.
No, by Chief Jennifer.
What? No. That would be,
we
that would
need
be
an
the
art.
day.
We need art of Chief Jennifer double fist slamming a Gorn. So before we get too far afield, I do want to talk more about Star Trek Day, because that really is like the big to-do of the moment. There was a ton of stuff. Did you guys get to see that? I know I watched it with you, Justin.
Star Trek Day.
I know. What is that?
I was sad that I missed it.
It's basically like there were a lot of ups and downs about this, and we got some really cool information. I would say it's a little unfortunate, some of the production value stuff that happened behind the scenes. Like there was definitely an AV guy who got in a lot of trouble after this. There was some
really?
like, did you? Oh, you didn't hear about this?
I missed it.
Woo! So literally, like entire segments would black out. Like the worst one was Jason Alexander, who played what's his name from Seinfeld.
Jason Alexander.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say.
Yeah, he played Jason Alexander from Seinfeld.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you were asking for his name.
What's his name in Seinfeld? Why am I drawing a blank?
Oh,
I'm
I
terrible.
haven't watched.
Oh,
Seinfeld in
oh
years.
my
I don't
God.
remember.
I'm trying. Why, Elaine?
Elaine,
Jerry,
Kramer, Jerry, and
George.
Oh my God! There we go.
Jeez.
Guys,
I'm editing this out in post. Okay, that was just
Thank
embarrassing.
you, please.
That's got to stay in.
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna reference it for the rest, the next like 26 minutes. But it has to
please,
stay.
no. So Jason Alexander is a big fan of Star Trek, and as you guys may or may not know, he actually did a cameo in Voyager. He actually played a character throughout an entire episode on Voyager. It was awesome.
Yes.
I love Jason Alexander, and they basically were doing these little cutaways to different people who were not able to make it there, or they just wanted to speak, and they cut to Jason Alexander, and he was like, "Hey everyone, Jason Alexander. Like, I'm reminded of one thing here on Star Trek Day, and I got this story." Blacks out, just completely black, no audio, no video.
Oh,
for like
no.
15 seconds, and then he gets back and he goes, "And that's all I got to say. That's the end. Have a great Star Trek Day." And I was like, "Oh no!" His entire thing was just completely
That
missed.
is so sad.
And that happened
He
a
did
lot.
the Shatner. He did a little bit of the Shatner impression at the beginning too.
Oh yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of funny. So there was a lot of blackouts. I felt pretty bad for the hosts, because there was a lot of technical difficulties up on stage. Some of the teleprompters were either off or not going fast enough. They were very slow, so they had to like improv a ton back and forth. One of the co-hosts, actually, the hosts that did this were from Lower Decks. Love these guys. It's Beckett Mariner, who was one of the hosts, and she. Hats off to her, man. She carried that thing. She was incredible. I felt like she kept the energy going the entire time. She's such a likable person in real life, and I thought she absolutely nailed that. I think if you guys have seen this online, you'll probably see some of the references to the poor DJ, the DJ that ended up like beatboxing and stuff throughout the whole thing. I want to go on record and say that he seemed like an awesome dude, and I bet you at actual conventions he's a hit. I bet people love him, but it was for like a major production and Star Trek Day, I could see that it was a little rough. People were a little too harsh on him. I think he was cool, but it was definitely it was a different vibe, I think, than some people anticipated. So if you guys haven't seen it, all of it's uploaded. You can go watch it anytime. It's about 2 hours in its entirety, I think.
I mean, let's acknowledge the great things that we did find from, or we got from Star Trek Day, anyways. Regardless of the stuff that did happen, the cringy moments and so forth like that. It could be, but it was the one thing to be happy about. It was Star Trek Day, guys. Like it was a day to remember. It's something to celebrate, especially among all the Trekkies. And a lot of the announcements we got to see, all the clips and everything. I was jumping out of my seat, man.
Well, we got to be grateful that Star Trek Day even exists. It's kind of insane that it
I thought it was great.
You
saw all of the actors and actresses that came through. They were super excited to be there. You could definitely tell, right? Just to discuss about it and to what we could look forward to. I thought that was amazing what they were able to do and what they were able to present too. And all of them look fantastic. You're right. Like,
everybody looks so good, man.
I mean, first of all, Will Wheaton, if you're watching this or not, man.
You're
50 years old. You look fantastic.
Good. Yeah,
you look fantastic. You look amazing. For 50, I don't believe it.
You know what's funny is that he knew for a fact how old that was going to make everyone else feel, because he set it up on stage. He was like, "Guys, I hate to tell you this, you're not going to believe it, but I'm 50 years old," and like the whole audience was like, "No."
Yeah, right?
I too am old, as it turns out. Like everyone had that collective experience.
But everyone looked fantastic, and all the clips that we got from it, all the little teasers and everything. I thought that was really cool. I'm super stoked for Picard season 3. I think that's gonna be great. Yes, Diamond, even Janeway, awesome on stage as well.
Oh, dude.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Kate Mulgrew, she's such a legend.
I wanted more. I wanted Janeway. I wanted a double announcement. Spoiler alert. I guess we didn't get it. We got Prodigy, but yes, but she looks ready.
Right? The live action
ready.
Janeway.
Yes, Kate Mulgrew looks ready. She looks ready to go. And she did quote it. She said, it's really a conversation that they've had, or they're having. But realistically, at the end of the day, it's up to us. So I mean, if we could cast our votes in there,
I'm writing a letter right
please.
Yeah, let's all write many letters.
Let there be a petition
I'm
like
writing
Strange
to
New
the
Worlds.
studio.
Yeah.
Right? Well, look what Strange New Worlds. I mean, that didn't come into fruition unless everyone spoke up about it.
We made it happen.
Signed their petitions, made it happen.
So, how
definitely a signature on there.
You know how fan bases often will send things to studios to encourage them to keep a show or whatever?
Yeah.
We're all just going to start mailing coffee.
Does everybody? It needs to be called "There's coffee in that nebula," and that'll be the there's Janeway in that nebula. So, in case you guys don't know this, Star Trek is actually one of the greatest examples of what Azure just said. It went down in history. It was basically the first time it had ever happened. There was an enormous letter writing campaign back in the 60s. Star Trek seasons 1 and 2 happened, and then the show was canceled. And through a very significant letter writing campaign, they brought the show back for a 3rd season. It was crazy. In fact, Jennifer's family actually knew one of the people who was involved in creating that letter writing campaign back in the beginning, famous person. But seriously, so many people wrote in that they actually brought a television show back, which at the time was kind of unprecedented. I mean, that was a wild thing. So the entirety of season 3 of Star Trek, the original series, was a gift given to us by a bunch of diehard fans that wrote letters. And we can now say the same exact thing about the existence of Strange New Worlds in the first place, which was not a planned thing. That was not a planned spinoff. Nobody even knew. Star Trek Discovery was a gamble at that point. There was only kind of paying off, right? Do you remember all of the production difficulties, the changing in leadership behind the scenes, all of the drama that was going on, not the recasting, but the reorganizing of the behind the scenes teams, just everyone who was involved in it. It was you were getting news all the time about potential drama and falling apart and all this stuff, and it costing so much money and scripter rights and all this stuff. The fact that it not only continued, but we got an entire new show from that shows just how much the fans of Star Trek can affect this existence. So let's go, guys. We need Star Trek Janeway. I want it to be called that. Bring back Star Trek Janeway. Let Picard be the precedent that starts it.
Janeway.
Yeah, that's what we need.
I remember with watching my dad Discovery, and when they finally was was it season 2 when they finally introduced Pike, right? Yep. And I just remember, I remember that moment. I remember watching it, and I turned to my dad and I said to him, "I'm like, he needs his own show. He needs
you could
his own
feel
show.
It right away.
He just needs his own show. I want to see more of Pike." And lo and behold, God, man, I'm so happy to be alive to watch Strange New Worlds because it's just so amazing. It's it's everything I wanted, right? So my goodness, we need a Janeway now. Like I think we're ready for it. More than anything.
Anson
really.
Mount, and not even just him though, because remember they did the short treks. Remember the short trek things that were happening? Like, they showed off more. We actually got to see more of Una and Spock and Pike than was even being shown on the show because of short treks, and I think that's where people fell in love with them. I think really people were like Azure said, man, they had gravitas right from the beginning. They walked on, they're like, whoa. These guys feel like more of the main characters of a show than anyone else who's been around here. Like they're carrying that much gravitas right there. These guys need their own show, and it happened. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Can I also say, Pike introducing himself to the crew was one of my favorite. Like little, it wasn't quite a monologue, but like little speeches he ever gave in that show.
Yeah.
God,
but you know what's great? Each character that they picked out, it's like I can't see them as anything else anymore. Like. First of all, I want to shout out Ethan Peck. Good Lord, dude, you're an amazing Spock. You're an amazing Spock.
Same.
I know he had all the blessings from the Nimoy family. So I mean, dude, you're killing it. You're killing it. I love you, dude. It's like I would give you a pad too. You know, like.
100%. Are you kidding me?
Anyone there, I would definitely just like, hey, I'll give you a pad and I'll read it out to you if you want.
I will say he is my favorite Spock since Leonard Nimoy.
See?
Yeah.
There you go.
I feel like he
I feel like that's so mean
That's
specifically to Zachary Quinto because that's basically the only one.
No, there were a few.
I like him too, don't get me wrong.
I mean, I mean, he was
too.
good too, but like it takes a certain, I don't know, something.
So I was watching it in the chat when people were, because there was a live stream chat for for Star Trek Day. And a lot of people in the chat were actually being like, it was a polarizing issue. One of the most debated things in the chat was how people felt about Spock, which really threw me off because for me, he's obviously a very different Spock. He's a different Spock than Leonard Nimoy, and we knew that was going to be the case. But in his own right, I think he's freaking phenomenal. He's so committed to that role. He acts it in exactly the lane that I think that works for him. You know, like that dynamic that he's building with Pike is so good, and he's playing a more immature version. He's this big he's actually ripped, right? He's jacked. Like he's for Spock, it's a little funny. I
love it.
But one of the cool things about him is that he, on top of being like super jacked, he brings with it a level of vulnerability. Don't you feel that? Doesn't he bring sort of like this younger, more vulnerable, maybe willing to make mistakes or like not really knowing the answer to everything. Like he has sort of like a brash cockiness that he brings to the original series. But it's almost like it's the same character. He just doesn't have that yet. He's new in the whole thing. He learns a lot from Pike. I feel like we're getting a snapshot of him at a different part of his life, and it works.
Exactly.
Ethan Peck, you rule, dude. He's rocking this role.
And it goes into those couple of episodes from the original series where Spock, like, maybe he smiled or there were other things that were going on where you can kind of see, like, little specks of what he was maybe in those previous 10 years. Which I think the Kelvin Universe movies, it's too serious. And true, it's a different timeline and whatnot. But it didn't quite get, I think, that essence, like you said, of that jovialness of when Spock is randomly, smiling or showing his human side.
You know, I really
laughing out loud at singing Blue Leaves.
Right, there you go.
You know what I really like is in that recent clip that they showed at Star Trek Day with Ortega's, right? And they were supposed to go down on
hashtag Mortegas.
More, right? Dude, it was so great. Like, with Spock even saying,
so Tupac had a weird cameo.
Tupac, no. When Spock was just that's something I gotta work on too. Just leave me alone. Like, it's great to see that like level of development too as well for Spock.
Strange New World is so good.
Yeah, it's really good.
You guys hyped for season 2, man? I mean, like, what could be more exciting? I think that's got to be the single most exciting. I mean, there's so much in the works. Like we said, guys, there's 5 Star Treks on the air, and how many of them have been teased? Like, there's still the potential of a Section 31. Starfleet Academy, still a potential. the Janeway being whispered, right? Like, there's so many things coming down the pipeline.
I mean, there's so many theories too that I have as well, right? Because none of that we know that for the 5 original ones that we know that are on air right now, but there's also 2 more that haven't like necessarily been confirmed yet. So I have a huge theory on that, and it's just about the TNG thing and Picard season 3 about Legacy. So I'm really like my theories.
I feel like you have a platform to tell us about it right now.
Yes, I definitely do. It's just because when you watch that teaser of them, like all of the original cast, and they speak in that tone where they're saying, this is what it once was, this is what you have to do. It's sort of like they're speaking to the next generation, and I think LeVar Burton, which he actually did say, it is about like the next generation. So yep. I'm really hoping that this has to do with their kids, maybe, things that they're taken away from, like we're gonna see the next generation. Because we do know that LeVar Burton's daughters are actually in
Starfleet. Yeah.
Right. Riker has a daughter. We know that. Mm-hmm. But there's these little things here and there that say that maybe Picard has a son. You should take a look and see the actors that got hired onto there and see these little tidbits that are little hints. But I don't know. They're all theories for me.
That's interesting. Really I have not interpreted that way at all, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for a next generation. I think we need it. I think we all need it.
I really hope that's what they name it.
Yeah.
The next generation.
The next generation. I'm hoping for it, man. Like,
and it's
just
possible.
Feels like it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that Patrick Stewart was not going to be able to do Picard for a long time, right? Like, I'm actually amazed that he made it as long as he did. He's an older dude. The amount of acting that goes into these things is huge. We all know that, right? Like, everybody knows how hard it is to be a captain in Star Trek. My God, it's insane. And he's done a really good job holding this thing up. But we knew it was going to be able to go on for forever. But it serves as a precedent to bring back other shows, right? Like Voyager or DS9, which everyone is excited to come back for, right? Everyone is. That's the thing. Everyone is realizing how much we all appreciate Star Trek, and that, Diamond has said just a second ago, sort of recognizing how hard it was to do a letter writing campaign back then, and that Star Trek is sort of amazing for having done that, but it's still doing it today, and that I think now they know, like, we're showing how much power we have with our audience request, and that we showed that Picard was something that we wanted, that we're hyped for season 3, and that now all of the old Trek alumni are coming out being like, hey, you guys still like this? Like, we're so on board. We love Star Trek. We'll come back and reprise our roles, and everyone will be excited for this. So we actually have the ability to do that, and the studios know this. That's why they are allowing and giving these weird little hints, because if we swell it big enough. In fact, I would like to say one of the other things that was brought up in Star Trek Day was the SETI Alpha 5 con, not podcast. It's actually going to be like an audio drama is what they're going to do. And a lot of what I've seen online, one of the greatest Star Trek content YouTube channels, Trek Culture, that you guys can go check out here on YouTube. These dudes do great content. And I watched one of his videos that he was just sort of talking about what that could be. And the hope, I think, is that this was talked about a long time ago and sort of tabled with COVID and all this crazy stuff. But like now that it's sort of back, I think they're gauging interest. It's a weird thing to put out an audio drama. But if there's enough swell for that, like, didn't you get the feeling like that was Nicholas Meyer, by the way. My God, what a legend, right? This is the guy that was responsible for Wrath of Khan, co-responsible, co-writer for The Voyage Home, and the writer for The Undiscovered Country. The 3 original series best movies. This is the guy, right? So, like, he's amazing. And I had this feeling like he was sort of holding something back when he was talking about it, don't you? I feel like he would be game to do this if there was interest for it. And I think that's what the guy at Trek Culture had said too, and I agree. I believe that if we show enough hype for that, we could see it. And how cool would that be, dude? SETI Alpha 5, getting that story of how Khan ended up in that position. So that was another thing that they debuted that took everyone aback. I don't think anyone was really expecting Nicholas Meyer to pop up and be like, hey, audio drama. Like, very fascinating. Right? Very fascinating.
I'm for it, man. Like, I really love the
Give
Khan
me all
thing.
the Trek.
So many, I mean, there's so many hints of Khan, too.
Well, you're not going to watch the audio drama.
Yeah.
You got me there.
We are.
You could watch
Because we're
the
reenacting
audio visual, the visual,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have it.
I'm just gonna while I'm listening to it, I'm just gonna watch a gigantic, widescreen picture of Ricardo Montalban's pecs on stream, just to remind myself how glorious Khan is.
Right.
That man.
Right.
That man has the most impressive chest in Hollywood, to the point where there was a huge conspiracy that went on for years, thinking that he had a prosthetic chest. Like, literally, that they thought Khan had a prosthetic chest. How ridiculous! The man was just a legend.
I love Khan.
Diamond says another generation. Yeah,
I don't know. Next generation.
Next.
So good.
Another generation. I'm good for anything that's as long as it's passing the torch forward. And we get to see that, And one of the few things that I'm very excited for is potentially an appearance of the Enterprise F. I want to see it. I really want to see that, dude. I really want to see it.
So background on the F. What is the F? Where is it from?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What's that game called that I love to play every single day?
Is it Star Trek Online? Maybe.
It's called Merrick Online on Star Trek Forever.
Right? Oh god, I love that game so much, man. The Enterprise F, the Odyssey class. Oh my god, I want to see it so bad.
It's
It would be
the
really
farthest in the
cool.
future Star Trek Enterprise that we've seen, basically, other than the J from the little cameo that it got. But basically, Star Trek Online's current Enterprise is the F. And now that we've seen Star Trek ships actually end up in shows, it's
it would be
actually
so cool to see them
possible.
do that.
Wouldn't that though, dude? Like, if you bring out him, maybe even introduce Captain Sean, like the whole thing could be so cool. And the Odyssey is a beautiful effing ship. It's so
I
good.
get it.
It is.
It's an effing ship.
I see you. I see what you did there. But
Let's
yeah,
go.
I want to see them all, and even just in high regards to looking at even the Titan A. What class is that? Like, it's giving me a little bit more of that Ambassador class, that Enterprise C vibes.
That's what I was saying,
Everyone doesn't
dude.
really
It's
know.
got
I'm
C
huge on the
vibes.
ship thing. Yeah, I'm huge on the ship thing. I love ships. I'll
Same.
collect ships till the day I die.
Oh, yes.
I have a lot of ship models, man. Like, when it comes
Same.
to Star Trek, as much as I love the shows, I love the ground missions, all that stuff, I will always stop and just jaw drop at the look of ships. For any ship that I see, I'm just like, I want it.
So what's the hot take, guys? Do you like
I
the
need
A?
it.
Do you like the Titan A? Do you like the vibe of the ship?
Oh, hell yeah!
It's going to
yeah.
be up on screen, obviously. So,
Without a doubt, I love the A.
Okay.
Titan A. Oh my god.
Azure, you a fan? Have you seen it?
I'm pulling up an image for myself right now.
There was
yes,
a big,
I actually-
beautiful debut. I'm going to just go out and say right now, it actually took me by surprise. I thought they were going to go farther afield in breaking the standard for what we think of as a Star Trek ship. I thought, they always go for something kind of crazy and edgy these days. But just like Strange New Worlds, and this is something you got to give Strange New Worlds, my God, did they do a good job. Whatever the production team is that was in charge of the ship, I mean, you deserve awards because they made it look so good. And yet, such
phenomenal.
an homage to the original 1701, right? I mean, it looks just like it in all the ways that count, but also beautiful. They did not
Even that
change
beautiful
it.
deflector dish is
She
still
loves it.
there.
The
So
bronze,
nice.
the bronze deflector dish and the red turbines in the nacelles. These
Orange
things that are
red,
iconic.
don't you mean? With prisms.
Orange,
Like-
yeah. And they left all that in, which was amazing. They even brought in some of the the feeling of the buttons and the knobs on the bridge and on the consoles, and they even brought in that weird orange color that was on the bridge of the original series. They kept so much and gave so much sort of credit to the source material. I was really impressed with the Titan A because it looks like a classic ship. I mean, it has that vibe. Like it's far in the future.
Saucer.
Yeah, it and like you said, and I've said before, I feel like it evokes the very little seen Enterprise C vibes to me. Now, I think when I watched the Trek Culture thing, they brought up other classes of ships that they thought it looks like, and I can't remember what they were. But in that trailer, at the very beginning, I saw what looks to me, Trekkies of the world, tell me, second guess me here, but it looked to me like a Steamrunner class ship. And I'm really curious to see if you guys agree with that. It looked very Steamrunner to me, which is something that we don't see a lot of, which is really cool. There's a lot of Steamrunner fans out there. And then the Titan A, which is what is being captained by 7 of 9, looks like Justin said, like an updated version almost to me, like an ambassador class, which is the Enterprise C from the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, one of the greatest episodes of The Next Generation. Which, by the way, another awesome thing that they expanded upon in a huge way in Star Trek Online. One of the greatest STO missions in the whole game, in my opinion, with the Tholians.
And before we delve into that, though, too, I remember the discussion that we had just the other night about how we could talk about our favorite characters in Star Trek. But we have to also consider that the ship itself is like a character, right? A character that you can really, truly admire.
Literally, in the case of TNG in that one episode, Emergence.
100%.
Wait. We're going to Vertiform City. Is that the one? Oh man, that was good. That was good. In fact, you could argue the same thing in Disco. The Disco is like a living ship now that they took on the sphere, the knowledge from the sphere. Remember?
Yep.
So same.
Yeah, because
same
it protects them a couple times.
Yeah, with the little drones that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good night, Diamond.
I'm gonna.
Speaking of which, are we going to be streaming Star Trek Online on Thursday? Is that correct?
Absolutely. In fact, I want everyone to know this is the schedule for the night shift. If you guys are interested in our content, if you want to hang out with us, it's really easy to do. We're going to be streaming 2 different times a week. On Thursday night, every Thursday, we're going to do a Star Trek Lower Decks watch party in our Discord, so come join that. And then immediately following that, we're going to do an STO stream. We're doing a 4-player all 4 of us let's play of Star Trek Online starting from the very beginning. Every moment of our playthrough of the story will be on stream, all 4 webcams. It's really exciting, really awesome thing to do. So come watch us on this channel live 9 p.m. EDT every Thursday, and then the podcast every Saturday 9 p.m. EDT. You can watch it live streamed here. Both of them will be uploaded as VODs on our channel, so you can watch them, catch up while in between. But we're really glad that you guys came. We'll probably be wrapping up now. I think it's about that time.
I think
I was going to say, I don't
want
to delve into a big new topic because we got to save stuff for next week.
Oh,
Absolutely.
And every week after that.
We're going to run out of topics.
I don't think we could ever run out of topics.
No, there's so much Trek out there.
As a little bit of an ending for this podcast here. If he does see it, Azman, I love you a lot.
Me too. I love you more.
Let me give you a pad. I'm just saying. Okay, bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We are the Star Trek Night Shift. Really awesome to do this with you guys. This is, again, our very first podcast. We will be doing this every week, so I hope you guys will join us for future episodes. Join the Discord. Get involved. Join our fleet in STO. You can hang out with us anytime. It's really an awesome place to be. I hope you guys will join us for that. Listen, Star Trek engenders the greatest values that humanity has to offer. It's inclusive, it's welcoming, it's positive, it's inspirational, it's optimistic. What I would hope that you get from Star Trek and from this podcast or any content that we create is to bring some of that positivity forward into the world. The world needs more Star Trek, guys. It needs more positivity and it needs more you. We love you all. Thank you very much for coming with us on this journey. Live long and prosper, guys, and we will see you next week here on The Night Shift.
Oh.
Bye, guys.
Bye.